Alrighty, y'all, another late night of games and another early morning of recordings. Let's talk some NBA playoffs. Alrighty, y'all, let's start off with Dallas and the Clippers. And I feel like in this one, this was a game where maybe Dallas didn't necessarily win, but the Clippers lost. And I'll kind of go into explaining why that is. But obviously, Kawhi Leonard came back. That was a big deal. It felt like this was a game where the Clippers were like, okay, like, whatever happens in this game happens in this game. We're going to make sure Kawhi gets back out there. He's getting his feet back under him because we can't win a championship without this guy anyway. In game one, we really saw Paul George, James Harden just like really take over the team. Like, it was like, okay, we're running everything through these guys. They're going to be the main focal points. It felt like those two really delegated their responsibilities more to Kawhi. And when Kawhi was off the court, like, I think they both actually looked pretty good still. It's just when they were all on the court together, it was like, okay, let's make sure Kawhi gets his touches and let's make sure that he's getting back into the swing of things. I do want to make sure I give my props to Dallas, though, because I think they did make some interesting adjustments. Like, when they were throwing two on the ball on Luka during some of their, really high pick and roll actions that they tried to do, they had guys like PJ Washington, who PJ Washington's been having a really good series, in my opinion, kind of roll to that short roll, which you've heard me talk about a lot in the playoffs, right? It's that just kind of about the free throw line. Like, he's not rolling all the way, and it's more so because Luka's getting pushed back. He dumps it off to him there, and they allow a guy like PJ Washington to go make a move or something, right? Where it's, okay, I can go take this floater. I can go make the next skip pass to hopefully a shooter in the corner. And they've been making sure Kyrie Irving's like one pass away from Luka at all times and vice versa, too, so that if people do try to help or something like that, or they do bring some extra like help on an ice, they can make that quick pass over and they can still kind of keep their offense going, because really those two are the only guys that are creating any offense on this team, which is a concern in itself. You know, I made a video a couple months ago, and with maybe a poorly titled video, we'll call it, where I talked about like, hey, is Luka Doncic actually like bad for the Mavericks? Spoiler alert, he's not. Any of you guys that commented mean things on that video, you just didn't watch the video, you dum-dums. But whatever, you got clickbaited. That's how YouTube works sometimes. But anyway, like, I feel like Dallas overall is kind of getting back to that offense where it's mostly just like Luka and Kyrie doing things. Like I said, I'm glad they involved PJ Washington a little more. And again, this game went better for them. This looked more like the Dallas Mavericks team that we saw towards the end of the season. But still, like, this was the first time they've won where they haven't scored like over 100 points on the season. So I don't know what you really attribute that to. But again, I still do worry about Dallas's offense a little bit. I thought this was a good adjustment, but I hope that we can try to find a way to get some more guys involved. As far as like actual like rotations and stuff go, like, is Daniel Gafford okay? Yeah, no, there's no like injury around Daniel Gafford, so like, why are we not playing him more? I understand that like in the first game he got bullied by Zubats a little bit, but I really don't think having Maxi Kleber out there is a big enough difference. I know defensively, like, he's nice and he can go out there and switch and everything, but I just like here's what I don't understand. Like, you were winning games with Gafford before, like, why can't you figure out how to do it now, right? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like he's too big of a factor in things. Like, yes, he probably got bullied a little bit in the first game, but I don't think they're gonna, on this Clippers team, go to Zubats that much when they've got guys like Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden with Russell Westbrook on the team. Like, yeah, they might dump it off to him a little bit more, and maybe he gets some offensive rebounds or something, maybe. But like, I like my odds with Gafford. I think he can get a good box out in and go get that board, and I'd just rather have like the rim defense and everything, even though the Clippers like to operate more in like a mid-range sensor behind the three-point line. I'd just rather have Gafford out there at the end of the day, and Josh Green should be out there more than he is too. Like, I don't know, maybe he should be splitting time a little bit more with Derek Jones Jr. than he actually is, but like, Josh Green is like a really impactful player in this series, just the speed at which he plays at, like, he gets you extra possessions and stuff like that, so I'd just like to see more of him out there. Let's also just give a shout out to Kyrie Irving, mostly like, just, he's played such a complete game of basketball in these first two games, where I've seen him just be like so ferocious defensively, like mostly with his on-ball defense, like his closeouts are like incredibly aggressive. Like, he's pestering, like he's always getting the hand kind of in the operating area of where they're dribbling. Like, it's been awesome to watch. Going back to the Clippers, though, obviously Kawhi just looked a step slow, right? I thought Paul George looked really good. He played within himself for the most part, so that's awesome. Zubats, Obviously didn't convert quite as many this game, which maybe you can attribute some of that to the Maxi Kleber thing. I'd still rather see Daniel Gafford out there. Again, James Harden delegated a little bit more, wasn't as successful from behind the three-point line, and maybe that's because even guys like Luka Doncic were getting up into him just a little bit more. And when Harden does that thing where he starts to like back up and he's like, okay, it's time to start saucing or something, like you would see Luka literally just be like, nope, I'm not dealing with this, and PJ Washington would just come up because he's like, what are you gonna do, pass it? Like, we know you're not passing it right now. Russell Westbrook, I thought, played pretty well for the most part. There was a couple times where he started chucking, and he started looking like the Russell Westbrook that I've always loved Westbrook, but I've always been kind of critical of him, where I'm like, he's not helping you win. And I thought he kind of got into that mode a little bit last night. And like, I know 2 for 9, 1 for 3 from 3, not the best stat line ever, but overall, like, his defense was really impactful. His rebounding was there in transition. He was elite. He made a lot of big plays. So I thought Russell Westbrook was overall a net positive. And actually, yes, he was. +8 on the game, so there you go. And Norman Powell with some timely buckets, but didn't get a lot of them to fall last night either. And that was just a big thing for the Clippers. They just didn't hit a ton of threes in that one. So where does this put this series, man? I have no clue at all. I have no clue where this series is going to go. Like I said, this one just felt more so like the Clippers gave it to them because they're like, let's let Kawhi start to get going again, and I worry about Dallas's offense a little bit, but they also have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving who are playing well. Again, I think they should try to get Gafford and Josh Green in the game a little bit more. I'd actually start Josh Green over Derrick Jones Jr. That's just me, but and I'm not saying he shouldn't get any PT at all. That's just my observation of the rotation. So hopefully they can continue to make some adjustments, and I don't know. Well, we'll see where this series goes, because like I said, this series could go anywhere. All right, Phoenix and Minnesota. So I live in Minneapolis right now, for those of you that don't know, and a lot of Timberwolves fans around me at all times. I've got some connections to the Timberwolves. I'm not a Timberwolves fan, but it's really awesome to see how happy this team is, or this city just is, around the Timberwolves, man. Like, I was driving by Target Center last night. Oh my gosh, was that place rocking. Like, you couldn't get anywhere around Minneapolis if you were around the Target Center last night, man. It's just crazy. Like, Midwestern fans are passionate, man. What can I say? Yeah, no, let's start with Phoenix. Like, they just didn't look good again last night. Honestly, I think they looked worse than they did in the first game. And that's saying something. Like, how many three-pointers did they take? They took 22 three-pointers? That's just stupid, man. Like that's your bread and butter. How many did they take in the first game? They took more than that in the first game, right? That's just flat out unacceptable. And I know Grayson Allen got hurt. That's a tough injury for them to overcome, just because depth is such an issue for this team in general. But I just can't get over that. Like, how do you only take that many three-pointers? And, like, let's give the Timberwolves some credit, right? The Timberwolves defense, like, they were the number 1 defensive team this year. They've really been showing it off in the playoffs. And you know what? Let me just even credit some of these guys quick. Anthony Edwards saying, like, yeah, they have KD, we have Jaden McDaniels. Dang, dude, you're right, man. Like, it's about time we started seeing that kind of development. And you can tell he was like, no, I'm going to get my buckets today. There was a lot of times where he's like, all right, I'm just forcing it. No matter what, I'm going to the hoop and I'm going to get a bucket right now. And, like, it was awesome that we saw that again. His defense was awesome. Cat playing out on Towns sometimes and just being big and moving his feet. That was like my theory when Gobert and Cat originally got together. I'm like, yeah, Cat's always been a tough defender. And I'm like, I mean tough in a bad way, actually, like where I don't think Cat's always been a good defender, obviously, and that's mostly in the pick and roll coverage and playing down low. I figured when Gobert got here and he moved more into like a 4 role, I'm like, maybe he's going to be more engaged when he can go guard these perimeter dudes that have the ball more, and that's kind of what we're seeing now, and I think that's a really big development for them. And then Rudy Gobert, just like, player of the game, like, don't even like look at the counting stats in this one, right? Like, he was switching on to people guarding them on the perimeter, because you were like, okay, well, what happens if they pulled Gobert out of the paint? He was just on him. It didn't matter if it was Booker or Beal. He was locking people up. He was making great extra passes that turned into buckets, man. He was getting timely rebounds. He was just facilitating the whole team last night, and Gobert was amazing. Anthony Edwards didn't even have like a great shooting game. He was 3 for 12 with 15 points, and I swear he was super impactful as well. Like 8 assists you see there. Like, there was a lot of times where he was just creating other things for people via screens or something like that, or just making big defensive plays or diving on the ground, getting the team going, right? Like, I didn't think this team can win a game where he doesn't score 30 points. But look at this, right? Like, obviously, Mike Conley was really, really good for them last night. Nickeil Alexander-Walker continues to be a nice player. And so Nickeil Alexander-Walker, somebody actually watched and scouted a bit in high school when he was in high school. I was like, yeah, I'm not sure like where this guy goes developmentally or anything. He has really found a home, and he has surprised me. I didn't see this ceiling for him. It's extremely impressive. I would like to see Monte Morris get going a little more. I know he's been dealing with some injuries, but I'd like to see a little bit more out of him. And then Naz Reid not getting like a ton of minutes or anything last night, but as long as he can keep going out there and switching on to people, then this defense is going to be really, really good. But yeah, let's talk the Suns a little bit more with just Durant, Beal, Booker. Like, I honestly think Durant's playing like just fine out there. He's playing within himself. Booker and Beal just kind of have to be better. I don't know what else to say besides that. And I feel like they're really hurting, like, without the point guard and everything to kind of initiate some offense for them. Like, Bradley Beal's having to do a lot of it, and it's ending up in him taking some tough shots over some good defenders, and it's not working right now. So what can they do now that they're going back home? Well, they did a decent enough job guarding Ant, and they have to find a way to keep like Gobert off the boards. I wonder, there's just not a lot of like great solutions to this, because here's the thing, like, we just didn't anticipate that the Timberwolves were just going to switch everything, right? Like, so we kind of just figured that like Booker, Beal, and Durant were just going to live off the mid-range, and that was kind of going to be the determining factor of the series, but they're not getting that at all. And honestly, they're not getting the three-pointers either, which this team really lives off of. And with no Grayson Allen, obviously he had a tough ankle sprain. I'd find it hard to believe if he was back for the next game. This is going to be a tough recovery game. I'm just literally looking down the rotation. I'm like, man, do y'all got to throw Isaiah Thomas out there or something like that maybe? Like, just because you need a spark somewhere, and you shouldn't need a spark when you have Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant. But man, they looked abysmal out there, man. They just looked completely shook for the most part. Like, I know they were leading at points in the games too, but it just always felt like Minnesota was just kind of controlling the game defensively at the very least, right? But we'll see how Minnesota translates to playing an away game too. That it feels like they were really feeding off the home crowd, and so I'll be curious when it goes back to Phoenix and everything, like how guys like Towns and Edwards play. But I guess we'll see, man. I have no idea what Phoenix needs to do for this one. I need to really think about it, because it's just plain and simple. They just got to get more three-pointers going. They've got to get a little more creative with their offense somehow to get some of these guys some touches, like make the Timberwolves think a little bit more on the switches. But for the time being, man, I don't know, man. It's looking rough for Phoenix. All right, Indiana, Milwaukee, I'll keep it real with you. I didn't watch too much of this game because that's how the NBA likes to schedule things. And even though I have YouTube TV, I don't like to watch those like dual screen things that they have going on where you can watch both of them, because that's too much for me to watch. I can't handle that. I'm not smart enough to actually comprehend all that basketball all at once. But what I did see, and mostly I saw like third quarter and a little bit of the fourth quarter until it became a blowout, and then I turned on the Mavericks Clippers. What I saw was Pascal Siakam like getting like into the teeth of the defense, hitting nice mid-range shots, like getting out in transition. Tyrese Halliburton, TJ McConnell were hitting him there. I saw Miles Turner like really spacing the floor. That was awesome. How did Miles Turner do? 3 for 6. Yeah, no, that sounds about right for that game, and making Brook Lopez really uncomfortable. Brook Lopez doesn't ever want to leave the paint. It's not where he wants to go. So Miles Turner being a spacer was extremely valuable. Looks like Aaron Nesmith was really hitting his shot. That's awesome. And I know Halliburton isn't like scoring a ton, and I'm not sure he's gonna in this series because they're putting a lot of pressure on him as a ball handler, but he still just feels like such a positive for this team because he's playing so within the game. He's making the right play every time. He's kind of doing like a Jokic type thing where it's like, yeah, like if I score, I score, but I'm mostly just going to try to make the right basketball play every single time down the court. And it looks really good. Like he's really hitting people with those passes. I'm not worried about Tyrese Halliburton not scoring quite as much. The one rotation thing I was a little bit curious about is like Ben Shepherd, and like shout out Ben Shepherd for having a good game here. That was awesome. I kind of felt like Doug McDermott fit this role a little bit more, just having a little more experience out there. But, you know, like we'll let Rick Carlisle do what he does, but you guys let me know what you think of Ben Shepherd and everything. But yeah, talking about the Bucks, obviously Lillard was cooking again, so that's good, I guess. As long as he keeps cooking, that's awesome. Now when Giannis comes back, inevitably, hopefully for the next game, are they going to be able to build off that? Can they both get going at the same time? We'll see, Doc Rivers, right? But I thought Brook played a really good like offensive game, at least from what I was watching. He was cutting to the hoop really well. He was hitting some threes, and like those are kind of the things that the Bucks need when Giannis isn't in, right? Like they needed someone else to score, and I know that's a hot take in itself. Like a team without their superstar needs more buckets, right? It is what it is. But yeah, no, I thought Brook played a good game offensively. Defensively, he was just kind of put in positions where he was a little bit more uncomfortable, right? Where it's like, oh geez, Miles Turner's a true stretch big. Like I really got to step out there and go get him, and I'm not probably closing out on him as much as I should, and that really kind of bit them in the butt. So yeah, Milwaukee's defense just wasn't as good in this one from the looks of it, at least from the game like I was watching and stuff. Like Indiana's offense looked a lot more like they did in the regular season, and I mean that checks out based on the score, right? They put up their 125 that they're used to kind of putting up. They put the Bucks in a couple weird spots where like they couldn't get the ball across half court a couple times. They couldn't get the ball inbounded one time. So like that's a little bit on the Bucks, but like also just credit to the Pacers, man, for just maybe having a little more energy than Milwaukee in this game. So Doc, how do you get these guys going, man? Like I'm really looking at you to see what kind of adjustments we make. And I mean, he's going to be under a microscope for his coaching decisions at all times, but we got to see something, because I'm a little bit confused on the rotation as well, if I'm being honest. And I hate criticizing stuff like this because these are NBA coaches and they're smart people. But like AJ Green, like, do we really need AJ Green like on the court more than Malik Beasley? Like, I don't quite understand that. Like, him and Pat Connaughton shouldn't be on the court like the same amount of time. That just doesn't make sense to me. So a little bit confused by that. I think Andre Jackson Jr. should be in the game. I think they could use like a defensive presence like that and a guy that could maybe go get them some transition buckets. That's just my observation. I just don't think you need guys like Green in right now. I think you kind of have those served in like Pat Connaughton, Jay Crowder, like those types of roles where they're mostly just a non-dribbling floor spacer. So just my observation. But I get Doc's probably doing this whole thing where he's like, this guy's giving the most effort in practice, so I gotta make sure AJ gets out on the court. Nothing against AJ Green, he's a nice NBA player, but like I just think you've got other options that you can go to on this team. Yeah, that's kind of my analysis of this game. I didn't watch a whole ton of it. When Giannis comes back, obviously this becomes a whole different series. You get your best defender and an elite scorer, MVP candidate back, right? That's going to change the whole series around. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. I believe we'll get to watch the full game next time, right? Because like when is their next game? Oh yeah, it's like a 4:30 game on Friday. Okay, yeah, no, I can tune in and actually watch that whole game and give a full analysis. So that's good at least. But yeah, no. Anyway, that's kind of this little update from Tuesday, man. That was an interesting one. We got like the Heat Celtics going on again tonight. Can't imagine that one's going to be too interesting to talk about. Sorry, Miami Heat fans. Maybe I'll get proven wrong. But then we get OKC New Orleans again, and that one I'm looking forward to talking about. So yeah, until then, we'll see you guys next time.